I believe Jesus was a rabbi who probably had a spiritual awakening, but before even speaking about Jesus himself, I think we need to look at how Christianity was shaped. The Arian controversy shows this clearly. Around 318 AD, Arius, a priest from Alexandria, began teaching a different view of Christ. He did not see Jesus as equal and eternal with God the Father, but as an exalted being created by God before the world. This became one of the biggest theological conflicts in early Christianity. In 325 AD, the Council of Nicaea was called, and Arius's view was rejected. The church officially affirmed that Christ was of the same essence as the Father. But this is exactly the point. If Arius had won, Christianity today would probably look completely different. Right after that, another major debate emerged, the Pelagian controversy. Around the early 5th century, Pelagius argued that human beings are not born corrupted by original sin and that they have the capacity to choose good through their own will, discipline, and awareness. This directly conflicted with the position of Augustine of Hippo, who insisted that humans depend on divine grace to be saved. Again, this was not a small detail. It was a fundamental question. Is the path to truth and salvation something inside the human being, or something that must come from outside through divine intervention and institutional mediation? Pelagius's ideas were condemned, and Augustine's view became dominant. But again, the outcome shaped the entire future of Christianity. The Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, and later decisions about what became canonical or non-canonical, show that Christianity was not simply handed down in one perfect fixed form. Human beings debated it. Human beings selected books. Human beings decided what was orthodox and what was heresy. Even the biblical canon developed over time. Different Christian communities used different texts, and only later did the church define more clearly which writings belonged inside the official Bible and which did not. And this did not happen only once. Christianity divided again and again. The Great Schism in 1054 AD separated Roman Catholic and Eastern Orthodox Christianity. And then in 1517 AD, the Protestant Reformation began, creating another massive split inside Christianity. Islam also divided early in its history after the death of Muhammad in 632 AD, eventually forming major currents like Sunni, Shia, and later mystical currents like Sufi Islam. Other religions probably have similar stories too. Original spiritual experiences later becoming systems, institutions, schools, branches, and official interpretations. So to me, this shows that organized religions are not pure direct truth from God. They are human systems built around spiritual experiences. Because of this, I do not automatically trust that the official version preserved by organized religion contains the complete and pure message of Jesus. I am not saying I can prove that the Gospel of Thomas is the real message. I am saying that because the process was human, political, and full of conflict, I leave open the possibility that some rejected texts may preserve something important. Because of this, I try to explain things with the simplest logical reason I can put together. My theory is that Jesus was an enlightened rabbi, not a random mystic shouting in the street, but a man with knowledge, culture, influence, and the ability to move people, masses. And I believe that because of how they killed him, he had a public trial, was tortured, and executed. The reason I call Jesus a rabbi is not something I invented. It is written directly in the canonical Gospels, but I don't mean rabbi as just a generic teacher in the modern casual sense. In that world, a rabbi was a recognizable religious figure, someone connected to scripture, public teaching, religious authority, and the spiritual life of the people. Religious figures in that world were not separated from society the way we imagine today. Religion, law, morality, public life, and political power were deeply connected. So a respected rabbi-like figure was not only a spiritual teacher, he could influence the social order. These figures were recognizable. They taught publicly, participated in religious life, spoke in public settings, interpreted scripture, and could gather people around them. That is why calling Jesus a rabbi matters. It means he was not simply a random mystic. He was seen as a public religious authority. In John 1 verse 38, the disciples say to him, open quote, "Rabbi, where are you staying?" Close quote. In John 3 verse 2, Nicodemus says, open quote, "Rabbi, we know that you are a teacher come from God." Close quote. In John 1:49, Nathanael says, open quote, Rabbi, you are the Son of God, you are the King of Israel, close quote. In John 6, verse 25, the crowd says, open quote, Rabbi, when did you come here? Close quote. In John 20:16, Mary Magdalene says, open quote, Rabboni, close quote. In Mark 9, verse 5, Peter says, open quote, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here, close quote. So when I say Jesus was a rabbi, I am not saying something random. I am using the same language that appears inside the canonical Gospels themselves. If Jesus had been just another isolated preacher, another fanatic claiming to speak with God, probably nobody would have cared much. At that time, there were many apocalyptic voices, many small sects, many people preaching in the streets. But Jesus was treated differently. A public trial, torture, and execution were not random reactions. They show that the authorities saw him as a real threat, not necessarily because he was violent, but because his message could move people and destabilize power. But what was his real message? Was it only the message preserved by the same institutions and councils that later decided what was canonical and what was not? Was it only the interpretation accepted by the same religious and political structures that debated from the 4th century AD onward the divine nature of Jesus? I cannot know for sure. But what if his real message was closer to one of the Gospels rejected by those men who claimed to be inspired by God during history, through councils, political debates, and power struggles? What if the real message was dangerous exactly because it could not be controlled? What if it had to be buried, rejected, or erased because it moved spiritual authority away from institutions and back into the human being? What if that book is the Gospel of Thomas? Because in the Gospel of Thomas, the message is not centered on external religion, priestly control, or institutional permission. The message is that the kingdom is within, truth is discovered through self-knowledge, and the connection with God is internal and direct. That kind of message is dangerous for organized religion. Because if the kingdom is within, then God is not controlled by priests, temples, institutions, or official doctrines. I also believe it is possible that what Jesus experienced could be described today as a profound spiritual awakening, maybe even something comparable to what Eastern traditions call Kundalini awakening. I'm not saying he used that language, but maybe the experience itself is universal. Different cultures simply gave it different names. In India, it may be called Kundalini. In mystical Christianity, illumination. In Jewish prophetic language, being filled with the Spirit. Today, we might call it spiritual awakening. So my vision is simple. Jesus was an awakened rabbi, deeply connected to God, who discovered truth inside himself and tried to awaken others to the same truth. At the same time, I don't deny the resurrection. In my own convoluted way, I believe in God and in the infinite power of God. So I do not deny that the resurrection is 100% possible. And I also do not deny the possibility, actually, my personal belief, that Jesus had a special nature, a superior nature, a superior metaphysical nature. Not God in the strict institutional sense, but part of God, like we all are, only at a much higher level of realization and connection. His message was not only believe in me, it was know yourself, discover the kingdom within, reconnect directly with God, feel that God exists, and most of all, live with no fear. I will leave you with some quotes from the Gospel of Thomas. You can make up your own mind about these messages, about their similarities with Eastern mysticism, and see if they resonate with something inside you. Logion 3, open quote, the kingdom is inside of you and it is outside of you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known. Close quote. Logion 70, open quote, if you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Close quote. Logion 77, open quote, I am the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all came forth, and to me all attained. Split a piece of wood. I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there. Close quote. Logion 22, open quote, when you make the two one, and when you make the inner as the outer and the outer as the inner, then you will enter the kingdom. Close quote. Logion 24, open quote, there is light within a person of light, and it shines on the whole world. If it does not shine, it is darkness. Close. Logion 5, open quote, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. Close quote. Logion 2, open quote, Let the one who seeks not stop seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will be disturbed. When he is disturbed, he will marvel, and he will reign over all. Close quote. To me, these messages sound very close to many ideas we find today in the spiritual community. Awakening, inner truth, positive vibration influencing others, self-expression, the immanence of God, being true to yourself, curiosity, self-knowledge, direct connection with God, and the discovery of something divine inside the human being. And especially, Lojian 2 sounds a lot like the experience of a Kundalini awakening or a deep spiritual awakening. First, you seek, then you find, then you are disturbed, then you marvel, and then you reach a new state of inner power and understanding. So imagine a known, influential, probably charismatic religious figure speaking about these things in that time, a man telling people that the kingdom is within, that truth is inside them, that God can be found directly, that fear can be overcome, that they do not need the institution as the only bridge to the divine. He had no chance.